Hi, Misha here. This is going to be my 6th vacation commentary, and I apologize if my phone rings. It's daytime, so I'll have to catch it if it's a customer, but something happened to me this week that I wanted to talk about. So this video will be a little longer maybe, and also it might verge into kind of the conspiracy theory and modern politics and social things, but I do ask that you kind of listen to the end, and do please feel free to comment, but be respectful. That's all I ask. So, here's what happened. I'm going to tell you what was told to me. 2 separate stories that someone told me, or 2 separate claims that happened on Wednesday. And then I'm going to talk about my response and what I think. Wednesday, a person I met way back in college that I've known 15 plus years drove me to the post office, bank, and back home. On the way home, pretty much apropos of nothing, he said, "Boy, racism against whites is on the rise." And I said, "What do you mean?" And he goes, "Well, my girlfriend was in class. They're about 40. I guess they're in their mid-40s, but I think she's going back for her master's or something." He said, "Yeah. Teacher was saying that it's not possible to be racist against white people." And then he said that one of the students in the class said that she hated her son because he was half white. She was African American. The mom. First off, this isn't a recent thing. He's actually brought this up several times in the past to me, so I know this happened years ago, but he was presenting it as fresh information. But I just played along and said, "Okay, why do you say that?" And he kind of talked a bit about things. I said, "Why do you think that the teacher said what the teacher said?" I said, "First, what were the teacher's exact words? Or if not exact, at least what's a good paraphrase?" "Well, I don't really know exactly what she said, but, it was basically you couldn't be racist against white people. It's impossible." I said, "So you don't really know the sentence or sentences she used. You have it boiled down secondhand from your girlfriend. Okay?" I said, "Okay, why do you think this was an official university department opinion?" "Well, I don't know that it was." Okay. But she wasn't censured for it, so, there was tacit support. And how do you know that? But even if I grant you a teacher maybe said something that could be misconstrued as that, how do you know she wasn't censored? How do you know she wasn't reprimanded? Again, this isn't your teacher, okay? On the second one, the lady who had a son of a mixed parentage, I said, she said she hates her son because he's half white. "Oh, yeah." I said, "Did she say, quote, I hate my son because he's half white? Or did she say, quote, I hate that my son is half white? Or did she say, I wish my son wasn't half white? Or did she say, I wish my son's dad wasn't his dad and he was white, but just maybe because he was an asshole, color aside?" My point was, all 4 of those ways could be boiled down to say the same thing. I hate my son. But the meaning, the nuances behind it are very, very different. So I said, "Do you know what she said?" "No." And I said, "Well, do you have an approximation of what she said?" "No, not really." Okay, so you're just jumping to this conclusion based on 2 things that you don't really know details on, that racism against white people is on the rise. Well, I know it's hearsay, is what he said. I said, that's not even hearsay. Hearsay is when you literally hear something and say what it was. At least what his girlfriend was saying could be hearsay, because I could ask her these questions. Allegedly, she was there in the classroom, so she should be able to dredge out of her memory at least an approximation of the setting, the context, and what exactly was said. Plus, she knows the people involved. Are they serious people? Are they depressed people? Are they happy people? Are they joking people? Or are they kind of mood swing people? She knows the people. He doesn't know any of these people. He doesn't know the context. He doesn't know what was exactly said. And he's presenting data that happened some time ago as fresh data to draw this conclusion that racism against white people is on the rise. Now, I use this as an example because it just happened to me this week, and that's pretty much where I let it rest because, all I said was, for me, personally, I would rather know the truth or try to get to the truth than have an agenda and just try to support said agenda. And I think you know where I'm going with this. Things like this happen all the damn time today. And not just about any racial or social or gender issues, just on anything anymore. People don't take a critical analysis, and they don't realize or care if information has been filtered through multiple people with their own agendas. It's like a game of telephone, but one where people intentionally only tell half of a conversation. It just, that really frustrated me. But what can you do? I've known this guy a long time. I know I'm not going to change his opinion. It's just how he is. And I know he's not alone. There are a lot of people like that. I don't know. I would like to think we don't live in a world where one type of racism is okay and another type isn't. Racism is bad. Okay? That's it. I think most people are sensible enough to know that, surely, right? I mean, that's, I don't, But I have to wonder if there's a certain sense among certain people, amongst everywhere, class, race, sexuality, whatever, that intentionally try to put a cloak of victimhood on. Because if you're a victim, somehow that excuses asshole behavior, at least in some people's minds. Essentially, they view victimhood as a get-out-of-jail-free card or a license to do whatever the hell they want. Again, I'm generalizing here, but I think we've met these people. And so they get on whatever cause or soapbox that lets them do this. And of course, it's also a distraction, because if you're focusing on society's problems, you can ignore your personal individual problems, therefore never actually putting effort into it. And you know what I've noticed is a lot of these people that are on these social crusades, they don't do a whole lot to actually change society. And in my humble opinion, if you want to make a better society, the first step, and it's a simple one, it's an easy one, it costs the person nothing at all, is just be a good person, or try to be a good person. Don't be a fucking jackass. You know, if you're a decent person, a good person, try to be, that tends to affect people around you, and therefore they're better back to you, and then you're better back to them because they're nice to you, so on and so forth. Alternatively, if you're an asshole and treat people like that, it's going to come back around to you. Now, we all have bad days. Myself, definitely at the top. But if you're having a bad day, just tell someone, hey, man, I was having a bad day. You know, the bills are due, stressed out, whatever. Since we all have bad days, most of us understand. I had a customer just last week who kind of jumped down my throat for telling him that I would need a copy of his dealer's license. He used some profanity, which in a professional setting isn't really good. But I didn't have to even say anything back. He basically just a few hours later said, look, I'm sorry. One of those days I was dealing with bad customers of my own. Didn't mean to jump down your throat. Cool. I 100% understand. No hard feelings at all. I made sure I processed his order lickety-split and got it out the door. So yeah, I mean, we're all human, and that's another thing. We live in a society now that doesn't allow us to be human. It's almost like we have to be perfect. No, I should rephrase that. Other people have to be perfect, and the first time they goof up, or the first time they hold an opinion counter to what us individuals hold, then they're irredeemable. But when we mess up, it's excusable. And that's where again, we're back to the whole victimhood thing. If we feel ourselves a victim, then in our own heads, not only do we have an excuse for our bad behavior, we don't have to apologize for it. And that's, yeah. And I grew up in a house where I'm sorry wasn't real common with at least one of my parents. So it's not the easiest thing for me to say sometimes too. So again, I'm fully guilty. I'm not some superior person, but at least I do try to recognize my failings, because that's the first step. At least if you know where you're not good, you can step back. But also realize that, screw up. Yeah, sometimes for me, and I bet a lot of you too, the hardest person to forgive you is yourself. I still beat myself up for bad things I said or things I didn't do 20 years ago. It's like, oh man, but sometimes you guys let it go. But do I think there's racism against white people? Yeah. Because there's racism against everything and everyone, and you can always find some lunatic that'll do it. Do I think it's widespread or influential? No, not really. Just because a fringe group pushes a certain agenda. I mean, we've had the Black Panthers since, way before the whole civil rights movement got going strong. But to be fair, we've had the KKK 100 years before that, so tit for tat to a certain extent. Personally, being blind, not even really getting the whole skin color difference thing, it's really fucking absurd to me why it would matter. And I've said this before here and other places. To me, it is a true head scratcher why we accept people of all different hair colors, brown, black, blonde, redheads. Okay, maybe not redheads, but everyone else. No one cares. We accept people with different eye colors. It's just one of those things. Oh, so-and-so. You might have especially if you're in the dating circle, you might prefer redheads or brunettes. That's just a preference. We all have our tastes, right? Doesn't mean you're against blondes but yeah. Why does skin color? Why is it any different than any other different hues and tones on our bodies? Hell, I knew a guy back in college that probably had more hair visible than skin. So even though he was white-skinned, he really should have been a brown person, because that's more of what he was. He was a very hairy dude. Really nice dude, but hairy. I don't get it, and I hope in years, decades to come, and I actually think that's one thing younger generations have right, is just not even seeing race, not even seeing it, because they shouldn't, because it doesn't, it's an artificial construct. I mean, to be fair, most African Americans have been in the country, at least, well, their families, have been in the country longer than most whites that we have here, because we had major immigration from Europe in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, plus another major group come over after World War II. Whereas, a lot of the black families came over, well, when. So they're more rooted in America than a lot of white, and so what? And of course, then you can get to the Native Americans. That's the thing too. But even they came over thousands of years ago, but they came over. It doesn't matter. We're all just people. And there are good people in every group, and there are assholes in every group. And I just don't see a reason to stir up trouble when there's so much more importance. The economy, the environment. There's so much humans are capable of. We've done so much. And I do honestly believe we live in a better society today than we did 100 years ago. We really do. Despite everything you hear, how the news reports things, we have made so much progress. And what a tragedy it would be to slip back. I mean, you're always going to go back some, but it's so much better to have 3 steps forward for every 1 step back than 1 step forward and 2 steps back. We don't need to backslide. We've done so much. We've made so much as a society. And that's why I've always been a big proponent of space travel, because I see it as bringing out the best in humanity while still giving us a challenge. A lot of things people want to do, there's no challenge in it. It might be a very good thing, but there's not that risk, that pioneer. Space exploration and hopefully one day colonization gives that struggle, gives that challenge that we so desperately need. And yes, does give that risk to life. And will, if it ever happens, have a toll on life. People will die. But that's what we need. That's what's made us strive as a species. Death gives life meaning. And since we all die, it's not like people are like, oh, if someone died, it's a tragedy. Why? It's like, it's just one of those things. We're born. We lose our virginity. We die. Not many other things is sure, but, it's just a stage in life. The real tragedy to me is a death or even a life without meaning. But this is just my thoughts. Don't know. That just happened to me this week, and I thought it'd make an interesting little vlog video thing here, but a little more serious one than I've had. Other stuff, the last day or so, just been busy with work, just got packages shipped for the day. Now it's Friday afternoon, so now we're on to the weekend, so I can rest off on packages, but have some house chores to do, have some model videos to record. I started getting some new ones done yesterday, and one is processing right now, and I'm about to do another one. But I just wanted to comment on that. It just frustrates me, and I know there's really nothing I can do about it. No way I can really reach people like that, because they're not really interested in the truth. They have an agenda, whatever it might be. And to be fair, again, it's not a race thing at all. I mean, there are people from all walks of life, all nationalities that have these kind of preconceived notions. So I'm not lambasting any one group. I'm just pointing out more of a way of thinking, a way of processing data, a way of filing stuff away in our head brains. But this is also what leads to things like flat earth and the mud flood and all that. It's confirmation bias. It's cherry picking. And this is exactly how it happens. And the scariest part, if people say something's true long enough and loud enough and it gets enough support, especially something of a social issue, then it becomes true in people's minds. And perception is what shapes reality. I mean, the Nazis did not think they were evil. Most of them, anyway. Maybe a few had a few reflective moments. But it's because there was all that social support for it. There was all this, if everyone you go down the street agrees with you, well, it must be right. And they're told they're right to feel this way. And that's what happens. But that's also what happens when people aren't objective and aren't honest with themselves about information. Data, information, facts. I love that stuff. About guns, about airplanes, about space travel, about society. As I said, racism makes no sense to me. Sexism makes no sense to me either. I mean, I like women. In fact, I'm married to one. And I think most of us can say the same thing. So, to say men are against women, that's stupid, and women against men, or vice versa, or anything else. I also never understood the thing against homosexuality, and I grew up in the South when that was still a thing. My attitude about gay men was, first off, they were really nice. For some reason, when I was younger, gay men thought I was cute. I took it as a flattering thing, and I just basically told them, hey, I've got a girlfriend, sorry, but we can hang out, and honestly, we did a lot. I never had anything inappropriate happen. For one thing, awesome drink makers. They actually got me into apple teenies. That's not even a joke. I had a neighbor I had two gay guys that were neighbors, but they weren't a couple. They dated other people. And, man, one of them could make a bomb apple teeny. The other one could make some hella buffalo wings. So that's where I was at on Saturday nights. In fact, I didn't really have a choice because, student apartments. So I could either stay in my apartment and listen to Cher blasting through the walls, or I could go over to their place and have fun at a party, and that's what I did, and it was great. And, of course, there were still other people there. They were great people. And, except sometimes their taste in music, maybe. But I consider that anyone. And my attitude and my point was, they were usually well-groomed, very well-spoken, very nice, but they weren't checking out girls. So it was like, hey, look, this is a high-quality guy who I don't have to compete with. He's not going to steal my girlfriend. He's not in the same thing. I don't have to compete with him. It's like, whew, that's two dudes out of the market. So it's two less guys out there we're having to compete with. On the flip side, whenever you saw two attractive women together, you're like, damn, that's a shame. I kid. No, I think, being serious, I think people should be with whoever makes them happy, because as I was saying earlier in the video, when we're happy, then we tend to spread that around to other people around us, and you want couples that are happy together. It just leads to a healthier society. If someone feels inclination towards the opposite sex or the same sex is immaterial to me. I have lots of friends that are married to women, or lots of, women friends that are married to men that I would in no way pick if I were them, but hey, I'm not in their shoes, and that's a personal choice. We all choose our partners, right? I'm sure there are people that would never want to marry my wife, or people that would never want to marry me in her place, but for us, we work, and that's just how it is. I mean, would you want someone telling you who your partner should be? Of course not. That's about as personal a decision as we have in our lives. So, yeah, that's my opinion on that. That's one I actually do feel very strongly about, probably because I grew up in a society where there wasn't tolerance towards that at all, and I could have so easily slipped into that judgmental status. But thinking for yourself, it just doesn't make sense. It really doesn't, because a lot of people that are against this stuff are the same people that promote, freedom and independence, which 100% agree with. But you can't say you want freedom to do your thing. For example, me, I love firearms. And then turn around and say other people don't have freedom to do their thing. And that doesn't work. If I'm free to do my thing, you're free to do your thing. And of course, the flip side, you go out to people that are against guns, that want firearms control. They want to restrict that freedom. And then they're huge proponents of, let's say, more more liberated sexuality than I personally am into, but yeah, so they want their types of freedom, but then they want to restrict the freedom of the other. So it goes both ways, and I just think, look, everyone, just do your thing. I think that's logical. Yeah, don't know. I do think most people are basically decent, many even very good, but we all get caught up in the rat race. And I think we all get kind of stirred up by people that maybe don't have the best intentions. What do you think? I figured it's time for a longer, more serious video, just kind of thinking about things. See, this stuff is more, I guess, societal issues are more interesting to me than straight-up politics. Mostly because I don't trust a word any politician says on either side of the aisle. And, you have to analyze, did he or she really mean this and that? And if you aren't sure if a politician's even being honest with you, why do you care what they say? If you have to really question... I mean, we all have friends, we all know people that are habitual liars. We don't listen to them, right? We just go, yeah, right. So why do we listen to politicians? They're habitual liars, all of them. I just ignore them. I don't care. They're irrelevant to my life because they're going to do what they do behind closed doors, and they may or may not be honest with us when they get out. Probably won't be. Definitely won't tell us the full story. And the way things are like in Congress, and the presidential office gets all the attention, but the president's only in for 8 years, 10 if he's a vice president that succeeds. But look at our congressmen, look at our senators. They're in there 10, 20, 30, 40 years in some cases. That's terrifying to me. So, as a final point, yes, I believe in term limits for Congress. Definitely. Funny how they've never passed legislation giving term limits to themselves, huh? That really should have been something in our Constitution. But, they couldn't have thought of everything. But, man, that should have been there. Because that's pretty scary. Alrighty, guys. Well, I better get back to it. Need to think about dinner and take some laundry out. Hope you guys have a good weekend, and I'm sure I'll pop back in a day or two. This is Misha, and I'll catch you very soon next time.